Hey guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today we are going to be reading this amazing graphic novel called Grounded: The Adventures of Rapunzel. It's actually really good. There's even some comments at the back. I might read one or two. I'm gonna read two. Thinking of Rapunzel's story, thinking it because the tower was only the beginning. With a lovable heroine who finds her courage, a somewhat reluctant guide and an adventure worth following. Grounded is one of my favorite reads this year. Jennifer Nelson's New York Times best-selling author of The False Prince. Okay, yeah, we just read one because we have to read quickly. So say hi to my brother. I'll be right back to arrange us to leave. It's something really bad. Okay, so arrange the sleeves. Now let's read. I do not want to know how many times I have to stop reading and then record again. Okay, let's read in a high voice. Okay. Once upon a time, at the top of a shining tower, high above the howling beasts and swallowing darkness of the Red Land, there lived a perfect girl. Her hair was most glorious in all of time, for it was 100 feet long, and it shone like a river of gold. Her name, of course, was Rapunzel. Rapunzel tossed the book out of the bathtub. It thudded to the carpet, and her head rolled back onto the marble bathtub rim. She stared at her ceiling garden, where hundreds of fat, fragrant roses pushed against one another in a ring around the skylight, blooming from the soil between the stones. Fall down, she said. A breeze licked through the tower, and she shook the loose petals from their flowers. Soft slips of bright color showered into Rapunzel's bath, and she sank with a sigh into the glittering bubbles. She was done with her book for tonight. The story always found her after sunset, even that was all about her. But then, all books were about her. For one thing, she was beautiful, which made the stories interesting. It also helped to be beloved, which Rapunzel was, which loved her so much that she gave her whatever she asked for. Finally, and most importantly, Rapunzel was innocent. Go by my brother. He's just, come on, I'm just going to keep reading until it's done. She wasn't sure what innocent meant, but she knew that she was. And Rapunzel said it made her perfect. Rapunzel wrung out the few feet of wet braid that had fallen into the bathtub and threw it out over the side. Her hair had been given its own bath yesterday, and it was already shining clean. Do not mind my brother. Please don't. It ran in a golden cord as thick as her wrist across the wide, round tower room and ended at the window, where most of it always remained 100 feet of braided rope wound tightly on a wheel. Whenever Witch arrived and wanted to climb up, Rapunzel turned the wooden crank and lowered her braid to the ground, nearly 100 feet below. Witch was the only creature who had ever climbed Rapunzel's braid, and Rapunzel had no intention of ever allowing a stranger to touch it, especially not a prince. In one storybook after another, the relentless princess clamored for Rapunzel. They stood below and shouted for up dreadful lies about how beautiful the ground was or how fantastic their royal palaces were. They swore that witch was evil and they begged Rapunzel to abandon her home, but their attempts were usually in vain. In most of the storybooks, she stayed safely atop her tower. Okay, this is the video is. I'm gonna see what I'm gonna do. I'll be closing that. But sometimes she was foolish. Sometimes her storybook self became curious enough to lure her braid and let a prince climb up, or worse, to follow a prince out of the tower and down to the ground. Those are the scariest stories. In Rapunzel's favorite book, a particularly persuasive prince lured her into a bleak wasteland that crawled with repulsive, ground-dwelling people. Peasants, the book called them. They were nasty things. But in every book, no matter how terrible the danger, Rapunzel had only to call out for a witch, who rescued her and swept her straight back home. Hey. Rapunzel sat up in her bath and gazed around the darkening tower concept. She would never be like the Rapunzel in those stories. What would be the point of leaving? She had books to read, a sea of hair to brush and braid, a balcony on which to run, and pretty gowns, jewels, and toys to entertain her. If she felt restless, she could play jacks for hours on end, or have witch come up to a door and feed and play with her. Stories were all well and good in books, but she was too clever to end up in one herself. There was a distant thumping sound, footsteps, which must be down on the ground, getting ready to climb up. Perhaps she had come to stroke Rapunzel's hair as she fell asleep. She often did that, and it was very nice. Or perhaps Rapunzel felt a surge of real interest, which had brought something delicious, like a chocolate pie, or a box of sugar roses, or a bowl of biscuit pudding so thick that a spoon could stand up in it. After all, tomorrow was Rapunzel's birthday. A loud metallic clang made her heart jump. She looked at the glass balcony door, which stood closed. Of course it did. No one could get to the balcony except from the inside of the tower. The balcony circled almost all the way around, stopping on either end of the arched window which always climbed through. Rapunzel looked at this window, which stood opposite the balcony door. Nothing was there. Which, she called. There was no answer. Quickly, Rapunzel got out of the bath. She pulled on her fluffiest robe and ran to the window. She squinted down at the ground in the falling twilight, but she did not see which. Still, she had heard something. She was certain of it. Light, she called. The blue flames in her massive fireplace roared to life, casting watery shadows along the stone walls. Rapunzel shivered. It all felt very mysterious, especially the shadows shifting beyond the translucent curtains over the balcony door. The shadow was shaped like a person, and Rapunzel watched it move, amazed by its precision. It even had a gray hand with long, disordered fingers that were reaching for the doorknob. Still, the silver doorknob twisted. Rapunzel went still. It was impossible. A trick of light. The door opened a crack. Rapunzel? The voice was low. It did not belong to witch. Icy fear shocked her bones and snatched the breath from her lungs. You in there? The door opened wider. With speed, she didn't know she had, Rapunzel scrambled behind an armchair by the fireplace and huddled there, motionless. She could have had her braid, but there was nothing to be done about it. She peeked through the narrow opening between the back of the chair and its seat. The figure slipped through into the tower. Rapunzel bit her lips shut to keep from gasping. No one but witch had ever come to this tower. No one. She was with a stranger. She was with, Rapunzel realized, her terror mounting, a prince. The prince stood still in the doorway, scanning the room. Scanning the room with bright black slanting eyes that looked almost lidless. Black hair hung straight as a sheet to the line of his jaw. He looked tense as though prepared to run. His eyes moved quickly around the firelit room. Rapunzel was overcome an intoxicating mixture of fear and excitement. A prince had come. A real one, which had always warned her that it would happen, but none of the stories had prepared her for how it would feel. She glanced accusingly at her damp and abandoned book. The prince narrowed calculating eyes, first at the life-like constellation that glimmered from the indigo canopy above Rapunzel's bed, and then up at her ceiling garden, where the roses rustled in the breeze that blew through the open balcony door. He peered at the mantel next, and when Rapunzel realized what he was looking at, she remembered that there was nothing to fear. There stood her silver bell, reflecting in the glass that hung above the fireplace. One ring of the bell was summoned witch. The prince's gaze fell on a small table that sat next to the chair behind which Rapunzel hid. On the table sat a goblet, what he eyed in suspicion, fingers twitching at his sides. He walked towards it until he stood inches from Rapunzel's hiding spot. He reached towards the gleaming goblet. Rapunzel shot up from behind the armchair. "Don't touch my things!" she yelped. The prince screamed and jumped, flailing. His hand struck Rapunzel's nose, and she shouted in pain and covered it with her hands. When he finally caught his balance, he stood with his fist clenched and up in front of him. They stared at each other for a moment, and Rapunzel was shocked to realize that the prince was short. He only came up to her nose and was in his boots. All the princes in her books were tall and strong and broad and dashing. She wondered what was wrong with this one. The prince let a heavy breath and dropped his fist to his side. His posture relaxed. Even his expression grew sour. "Why'd you jump out at me like that?" he asked. Rapunzel gazed at him, speechless, still holding her stinging nose. "Well," said the prince, "you trying to scare me to death or what?" Rapunzel had no idea what he was talking about. In her books, princes fell to their knees, blinded by her radiance. They called her sweetheart and darling and my love, and they refused to leave the tower without her, claiming that they would rather die than be separated from her. I didn't know how he was supposed to behave. Why was he doing his part? Why wasn't he doing his part? Rapunzel looked down at herself. She was still in her bathrobe. Perhaps that was the problem. In her books, she was always beautifully dressed whenever princes came to visit. She went past the prince toward her great wardrobe, which she flung open. Was a glittery red dress appropriate for rejecting a prince, or the shiny let me restart that sentence. I'm so sorry. I'm gonna restart that sentence. But let's keep reading. Okay. No, that's my place. Was a glittery red dress appropriate for rejecting a prince, or the shiny blue satin with the pretty white sash, or maybe the green one and all the gossamer layers. Yes, that one was nice. Rapunzel pulled the frog from its wooden hanger and considered the effect of the vibrant green gown against her pale skin. "What are you doing?" asked the prince. "I'm getting ready," she said. Wait for a while, for the next part," said Rapunzel. Where you tell me how much you love me?" "I don't," I said. "Wait. You're not very good, prince. You don't even have a crown or a cloak. Are you serious? I told you yesterday. And your clothes are dirty." Rapunzel pointed out, noticing his shabby outfit for the first time. "That vest looks like it hasn't been washed for a month. I've been traveling." "Yes, you've been traveling far and wide to reach me," said Rapunzel, nodding. "Now, don't say anything else yet. Let me put on a gown, and then we'll do the rest of it." "The rest of what?" Rapunzel laid the green gown out on her bed and started to untie the knot of her bathrobe. "What are you doing?" cried the prince. "Tie that back up." Rapunzel turned to frown at him. "But I have to take my robe off," she said. "I can't put on my gown over it." "But you can't. I'm standing right here." The prince pushed his straight black hair out of his eyes. It fell back down again at once, but it could not entirely obscure his look of panic. Rapunzel watched him nonplussed. "Have you gone mad?" she suggested. She had never seen anyone do that. "No! Are you dying?" She had never seen anyone do that either. "Just get dressed," begged the prince, and he covered his eyes with his hands. "I want to get out of here, but I need to get what I came for." "What, me?" Rapunzel laughed at him. "You'll never get me. I've read all about the filthy, horrible ground and the nasty things that princes do." "Are you dressed yet?" he shouted. "Yes," cried Rapunzel, tying up her robe. "There, I don't know why it matters so much." The prince uncovered his eyes and blinked. "Because it's what people do," he said. Rapunzel bristled at his tone. "What people?" she retorted. "Sure, people with dirty clothes who climb up to other people's towers without asking?" The prince fixed Rapunzel with eyes so black and cold that she was unable to think of further insults. "I'm not sure," he hissed. "You're enormous, and no one to talk about looks when you've got 100 feet of useless hair." Rapunzel opened her mouth so wide that the corners of it ached, but no sound came out. She didn't care that he'd call her enormous. He was so sure that he probably thought everyone is enormous. He would pay for insulting her hair. "My hair," Rapunzel, rage roughening her voice, "is not useless, prince. Stop calling me it's glorious. For your information." Oh my God. "It's glorious for your information, idiot." The prince clutched his jaw. "I'm not an which needs my hair so that she can climb up here. How else will she visit?" "Let's see," said the prince. "Maybe you should throw down a rope ladder, or get yourself some stairs. Or if the witch is dying to climbing, she could use a rope and grappling hook." Mother didn't know what he meant, but she wasn't about to admit it. "Who do you think you are, telling me what to do? I can ring my bell right now and tell which to throw off this tower, and she'll do it." Rapunzel snored. "Do it yourself. You're big enough. Anyone will be bigger than you, peasant." She spat the last word at him, but the prince only grinned, a sharp white grin that split his face. "You're learning," he said. "I am a peasant. It's an insult, peasant. Not if you know the right peasants." The prince crossed his arms. "You probably don't even know what a peasant is." Rapunzel wanted nothing more than to shut him up. Since she didn't know how, she snatched up the book she had thrown earlier and marched over to find its place on the shelves that were built into the long, curving wall behind her bed. "Why haven't you asked about the fairy, said the prince, coming up behind her. Or don't you care about what happened after I took her away? Why should I care about a fairy, she asked, tucking the book away. She saw fairies flutter by so often, ruby red and tiny. But whenever they came within a few feet of the balcony railing, they were whisked away by the wind, which said they were useless. What should you care? Said the prince, and he grabbed her by the shoulders and turned. You practically killed one, he said. She would have died if I hadn't shown up and carried her out of here. What do you have to say about that? I don't know what you're talking about, Santa Claus was trying to pull away. I never touched a fairy. Don't pretend you don't remember. It was yesterday. Rapunzel grabbed his wrist, but his grip on her shoulders only tightened. Get off, you mad peasant, she said. Stop touching me. We are going to stop right here. I'm going to read one more sentence, and then we're going to stop right there. Stop playing innocent. So, let me guess. Okay, there we go. So make sure to like, subscribe, and turn the notification bell. Bye. Love you all. Mwah, mwah, mwah. Bye.